Howdy, how's it going today? You know, it's a beautiful spring day here. It's the day after some big rain we've had for about the last day and a half. I think in the last day and a half, we've probably put on between, depending where you're at here in the county, 3 and 4 inches of rain. That did a couple things. You know, what it did was one, it put the farmers out of the fields, and two, it stopped any kind of field or yard work or garden work for anybody else around the neighborhood for a few days. And the farmers are likely out of the fields for at least a week. So here we are, middle of May. What's that mean? Well, it could mean, because we're scheduled to get more thunderstorms and some more rain later in the week, it could mean a later than normal crop harvest. Now you're saying, what do you mean? Well, for a lot of you younger guys, the last 10 to 17 years, depending on where you live, especially here in the Midwest, has been exceptionally dry, well-rounded springs where you could get in and get your crops planted or your gardens planted, do all your food plot work for the most part. I mean, there's exceptions everywhere, but we have been in a quite dry spring cycle. This is actually normal rain and weather over history, over my lifetime, that I was used to in the spring. Lots of rains, lots of heavy rains, lots of hot days, lots of cool days. This is more spring-like than it's been in the past, I don't know, 20 years. That being said, what's it going to do? Like I said, it's going to make some of these farmers, a lot of them have their corn out. Not all of it, but a lot of it. And a lot of them even have quite a bit of their beans out. So it's going to slow the planting. It's also going to slow the harvest, especially if we run another 2 or 3 weeks. So that's not great for a deer hunter who's hunting in an area that's ag-centric. In other words, you may be hunting in an area that frankly is mostly ag and a quarter or less woods. That can put the deer in the corn and the higher ag crops for a very long time when you're wanting to hunt them. It can change your hunt. And we can get into that later in the year, especially as we close in on the harvest season and hunting season and see where the crops are for a lot of places. Sorry, I got a bug in my eye. That's the other thing. The reason I'm on the porch today is it's wet and it's muddy. Two, with this moisture, and it's been exceptionally warm here. We've had a couple of small cold spats, but it's been exceptionally warm since the end of March. We have mosquitoes that are as big as Carolina buzzards. They'll carry you off. So there's not enough of anything to put on you to keep them off of you, let alone biting you. And some of them are pretty doggone big. We went camping last weekend, me and the wife, just to get away. And the mosquitoes were incredible. So, that being said, if it's a wet year, expect mosquitoes in the fall to be incredible, especially if you got a September or early October season. They'll tear you up if it stays wet. Now, do I know what's going to do this summer? Absolutely not. It may or it may not turn off and dry up and become more drought-like. But here's the thing. We've had enough rain now. At this point, it's really, really, really have to get really hot and stay exceptionally dry for months on end. These 2 or 4 week drought periods and then a little bit of rain, it's not going to dry it up that much as it has in the past maybe 10 years. So, with that being said, here's the advice. Pay attention to where your crops are, around where you hunt, if you hunt around crops. And remember, that is deer cover, especially if it's corn or sorghum. It's deer cover until it comes out. And it's definitely deer food. At least here in the Midwest it is. So, let's talk about one other thing real quick. In your circle of friends and deer groups, what tends to be the most charged or energetic? And I don't mean internet deer groups, because honestly, those chat rooms, they've got some decent information, but they're mostly this. Look at me. And the other thing they are is you have two different groups of people in them. You got the haters of everything and people that don't like people for whatever reason. And the other group are afraid to say anything that they actually feel or think because they're afraid of this group over here. So you got the quiet people, you've got the combative people, and if you disagree with these people over here, you're a bad guy. So I don't do a lot of chat. I used to when I was younger because I was young and dumb. When it first came out back in the late 90s, early 2000s, oh boy, everybody was arguing and talking back and forth, and there were 3 or 4 deer camps of deer arguments all the time. Thing is, nobody on those chats really knew anything about the other person. You just don't. So, what brings up more anxiety and lively talk in your groups? Is it bows versus crossbows? Is it muzzle loaders versus high powered? Is it food plot hunting versus forest hunting? Or is it another one that tends to be really shunned unless it's in a private group, and then it's talked about a lot? And I've heard a lot of talk. Believe it or not, one of the most eruptive topics in the deer world or the hunting world is the special youth seasons. There's a camp of hunters that think it's the greatest thing ever, and usually they've got a bunch of kids or grandkids that they want to haul out and hunt with. And then there's a camp of hunters that think we keep dropping recruitment, but we keep giving these children special hunting. Is where when their children or they got to go hunting, it was more exciting to go out and have the camaraderie of deer camp and being out there with all the big guys. I remember when I was a young man, it was going out and being with all the big guys that meant a lot more to me than I think it would have to give me a bluebird day in 80-degree weather to go sit on the edge of a field with a rifle, no less, and try to do it where everybody else is sitting at home or playing football or grilling out. The truth is, it's one of the most divisive topics ever. I can see it both ways. I can. But if it's the right thing to do, why are our children dropping out of it faster? Some people are going to say it's because of the internet and the electronic games and the lack of time and all the high school sports and blah, blah. The truth is, we all played sports from Little League all the way up to post-school sports. The reality, I think, is the easier the more special catered to people, the more you hand people things, the least it means to them. As where when it's special and you get to share that time with people you admire and adore, your parents, your grandparents, and they're all doing the same thing you are, and you just couldn't wait to go to deer camp, for example, I think it means more, because the boys I know that did it only with the adults, and yes, dads and grandpas, a lot of us gave up our own private hunting time and opening days to take our children out and deer hunt with them, with everybody else out there. Because what's more exciting? Think about it. You can see deer both ways. Is it more exciting to put on your shorts or t-shirt and go sit in a deer blind and swat mosquitoes in 80-degree weather and not hear but one or two shots all day long? And then the deer move right there before dark and maybe not at all in the morning? Or is it more exciting to go out and sit and watch deer in the rut with the big guys all out there and hearing shotguns and rifles going off like firecrackers everywhere? And every time one goes off, they go, "Oh, somebody got one, didn't they, Dad?" Or they hear that string of 4 or 5 shots. "Did he get him?" "I don't know, son." Usually that doesn't mean good things. Which is more exciting? Hand it to them and it not mean as much? Or go out with the old man or grandpa and them give up a little of their special time to go do it with them? That's the arguments I hear back and forth. I'm in a camp in the middle. I get it. Don't tell me you don't have time. You have no idea. The rest of us hold down 40 or 60 hour a week jobs. Coach football and wrestling and baseball and track all through school and out of school. And then do your own thing, whether it's bowling or golf or semi-pro football. Believe it or not, this old man played semi-pro football until he was 41. Coached all kinds of sports, but I still made time, and my friends still made time to put themselves aside and take their kids out, and it meant a lot more to them. Yeah, it's nice to go sit in the blind anytime with a kid, but is it as special? That's the question. I'm not anti either, but which one's more special? If I'd ask my children, they're going to tell you it was Dad giving up opening day or his hunts to go sit in a blind so they could listen to and watch the rutting bucks and the rutting does and the herds moving and listen to all the gunshots on opening day. Because let's face it, most kids didn't start with a bow or a crossbow. Not in our time, and certainly not in my children's time or the children that came after them. They started with a gun. Because why is that? It was the highest odds at the best time that deer moved, and you never know what was going to be in front of you. But you could always almost guarantee there was going to be action. So what are you? What camp are you in? Is it just keep handing it to them before everybody else goes out and they're alone in miserable weather? You can call it more enjoyable weather, but I don't think so. When I started, you had to be 12 to go. It was the rule. Now you've got 4-year-olds out there with a crossbow or a rifle, or 5-year-olds sitting on some kind of gadget where Dad aims it and they walk up, look at it, and pull the trigger. Is that hunting? Or is that just enabling into something that they're not going to understand or enjoy another 5 or 10 years down the line and walk away from because they never really knew or enjoyed the woods at the same time you did? Do I think youth seasons are a good thing? Yes. In the right context, I do. Do I think they've gone overboard on them or tried to cater too much at the wrong times of year? I absolutely do. Do I think dads and grandpas and moms and aunts and uncles need to give up a little bit of their more special time to take their kids and grandkids and nieces and nephews out with them and teach them when it's actually hunting is really good and enjoyable, even though it's colder? I mean, you can dress them up. I remember taking my youngest out, and he looked like the abominable snowman. And he got to watch rut action on opening day of gun season, opening morning, that's unbelievable, and kill his first buck, a record booker, that I would have gladly killed but he got to do it. And he still hunts, and he's on fire for it. I know others who went out and did the same thing in special youth seasons, and now as young men, they could care less. Same age. Think about that. But whatever you do, however you feel on it, take time to take your kids out and go deer hunting, turkey hunting, fishing, camping, coach baseball, be involved in their lives. Guide them away from the things that you know aren't good for them. Dad, if you're sitting there playing PlayStation, you can't tell him or her to get off the PlayStation. Expect more of the same, only worse. But if they see Dad doing the man things, doing the husband things, and doing the father things, and being a coach and a mentor, and going hunting and fishing all the time, and working in the yard and working in the barn or being in the fields, they're going to want to do the same things, especially if you include them. Especially if you include them when it's exciting and everybody's doing it. You know, deer camps are dying because hunter greed. Everybody's afraid somebody else is going to get one up on them. And I'm going to tell you something. It ain't a contest. And if you think it's a contest between you and other hunters, or even hunters in your own group or family, you need to check yourself, because it's not. It's supposed to be about enjoyment, food, and excitement, and sharing it with those that you love and your friends and family. You don't have to go to the woods every day to have a great big injection of fun and hunting. But I'd say do it as much as you can, because one day them little ones, they're going to move off, go to college, get jobs, have a family. And don't you want your grandkids or great-grandkids to carry on the tradition? Kids only learn what they see, folks. Hey, I'm Ed Hunt, Hunt Outdoors. If you don't like my messages, move on. If you do, that's great too. But think about it. What's more exciting? What means more? Something you just hand to them for no reason at usually the wrong time, or something that's earned, that means something, that's part of something bigger than themselves? Have a good day.